Hi everyone, welcome to a quick guide on how to solder. I'm going to show you how to set up your soldering iron, some safety, and how to solder your first components onto your PCB. First off, you want to get rid of any distractions. That means turning off your phone and any devices. We also want to make sure our workspace isn't a mess. Now, we want to make sure we have a wooden board over the desk and our PCB on top of it. We also want to make sure our iron is on its stand when it's not in use. And whenever we're soldering, we have to make sure we have our safety glasses on. Once we have your iron plugged into the socket, some of your irons may have an on and off switch. Turn it on. If yours doesn't have an on and off switch, that means it automatically turns on. Now, when we check out the iron, we can see a temperature gauge. We want it to be at 350 degrees. If yours is a bit high, we can adjust it by turning it up and down. This is the sweet spot for temperature. Now, it does take a few minutes for your iron to heat up. You can tell it's at proper temperature by taking your sponge and touching the tip of the iron on the sponge, and it should make a sizzle sound. And that's how we know it's at proper temperature. Now, I want you to remember that even when we turn off the iron and unplug it, the tip is still going to be hot. So I want you to never hold the iron by the tip, always by the handle. The first thing we do is we mount our components onto the PCB. We start with the smallest components. That way, we don't have our PCB jiggling around as much as we solder. If you're having difficulties holding down your PCB, you can use the 3D printed holder. In order to get our components in, I start off with the ends. I usually put one end in first, then the next end, and then I push it until it sits as flush as possible with the PCB. Now that we're ready to solder, we're gonna heat up the component and the pad for about 5 seconds. Then we add solder. We continue to heat for about 2 seconds, and once it's a shiny volcano, then we ease off and let it cool. Make sure you don't blow on it. So once we're finished, I'm gonna move on to the IC, integrated circuit. So same exact concept, I'm gonna heat up the port and pad. Once it's heated up, I'm gonna add my solder, continue heating for about 2 seconds, and once it's a shiny volcano, I'm gonna stop. Then I move on to the next component, and so on. Now, mistakes do happen. If you ever want to remove solder, what we use is a solder sucker. All we have to do is press down on the top suction button and hit the side button when we want to suck. I'm going to heat up the pad with the tip of my iron. Once I see the solder start to melt, I'm going to bring my sucker up. Now, I just have to press on the side button to suck. And whenever the tip starts to oxidize, what we can do is we can just clean it on the sponge and get rid of all of that oxidization. Once we are finished and we've put everything away, we have to make sure we do a good job washing our hands, because solder isn't good for you if you ingest it. What to do if you burn yourself? It happens. What you have to do is turn the tap on and submerge your hand in cold water for about 10 minutes. Once your hand doesn't burn anymore, go see the teacher.